UFC 321 Aspinall versus Gane in Abu Dhabi just took place, and I'm going to be going through the entire card. We'll go ahead and get straight into it, starting with the early prelim opener of Jacqueline Amorim versus Mizuki Inoue. This was clearly a dominant fight for Inoue. She won all 3 rounds. There's no doubt about it. She outlanded her on the feet. She was significantly better on the feet. Her boxing looked fantastic. She also had really, really good knees to the body. I think it was in round 2 or 3 where she really started to hurt Amorim with that, and she actually went down to the ground and pulled guard because of how much she was affected by the body shots. Overall, just a dominant one-sided performance. I'd love to see Mizuki Inoue a lot more active. I know she's had only a few fights in the last 6 years, I think it is, because of a knee injury and just general inactivity. So I would like to see her in there a lot more. But yeah, her boxing looked fantastic. She did a really good job at keeping a low base, have her legs bladed stance really far apart, and she kept her head forward. She kept her arms pretty low, so she could stop any of the takedowns for Amorim that came in. Overall, just a fantastic performance from Mizuki Inoue. And I think she could be a problem at strawweight, if she stays active, that is. She just beat a really hot prospect in Jacqueline Amorim. Not in that way, of course. But, yeah, she beat an upcoming prospect in Jacqueline Amorim. So taking all that momentum for herself, I think she'll be able to get a crack at the top 15 maybe. I think she's earned it after that performance. So moving on up the card, Azat Maxim versus Mitch Raposo. Mitch Raposo, he won this fight pretty clearly. In round 1 and 2, I thought he clearly won the fight. I saw a lot of people in the bottom left on Twitter scoring round 1 to Maxim, but that made no sense to me, and the judges agreed, which I'm glad they did, because Raposo was landing significantly better shots all round. He was landing the overhand right over Maxim's lead all around, and he did that in round 2 as well. But because Maxim tried and failed to take down at the end of round 1, I guess people saw that as enough to score it for Maxim. But Raposo was busier on the feet, which is something we hadn't seen from him before. So it's good to see him, actually a little more active on the feet. And yeah, he won round 1 and 2 pretty clearly. Round 3, there was a point deduction from Maxim. He grabbed the cage as he was being taken down, and he was able to use that to reverse position on top. The ref noticed it, and it was egregious enough of a foul that they took a point right off that. Either way, he would not have won this fight, even if he took that last round. But I still did score Maxim that last round, but because of the point deduction, it was 9-9. So Raposo pretty clearly won this. He had a good performance. He looks powerful. He's a pretty stocky and small guy for the division, so he's able to generate a lot of power in those tight hooks. But not a lot happened in this fight overall. Nobody was really hurt at any point. Not the most exciting fight, but Raposo did clearly win, so I'm glad the judges backed him there and he got it done. Moving on. Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Chris Barnett. This was a fun fight. No, it wasn't. It was a terrible fight. Extremely low skill, but it was hilarious to watch. I was crying, laughing the whole time. There was a point in the fight where Chris Barnett's ass cheeks were hanging out. It was that bad. And then when he got up from his feet, or to his feet, he was pulling up his shorts over his butt cheeks. They were quite literally halfway down. Half the crack was showing. It was quite the sight. But yeah, this was just Hamdi Abdelwahab laying on Chris Barnett, just controlling him for 15 minutes. Chris Barnett, it looks to me as though he has a hard time getting up on his own. I can't imagine it's any easier with a 260-pound man on top of him. So Hamdi Abdelwahab was able to just lay on him, land some big ground and pound shots. There was a couple times where I thought this fight could have been stopped maybe if it was another ref, but they let it go on. Chris Barnett's ear was badly beat up too. It looked like it was hanging off like Ramiz Brahimaj, that fight a long time ago. But it wasn't quite that bad, so he was able to survive and make it to a decision. But this was pretty clearly one-way traffic. Hamdi Abdelwahab controlled him, landed big ground and pound shots. Easy decision win for him. Moving on, Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Delgado. This fight was sick. I actually scored it 2-1 to Jose Delgado. I had round 1 to Delgado and round 2 to Delgado as well. Round 1, it was competitive, but it was a very clear Delgado round. He landed a nasty knockdown off of a spinning back fist, landed flush on Wood's chin, dropped him really, really bad. But Nathaniel Wood recovered. There was another point in that round where he was able to get a knockdown of his own. It was kind of an off-balance one. It was a little iffy, but it looked to me like he knocked him down. Let's check these stats here. Yeah, they gave each guy a knockdown, so yeah, I'm glad that was scored a knockdown. It looked like it hit him hard enough where it knocked him off balance. Wouldn't say it was a concussive blow or anything, and certainly wasn't enough to get him the round back. So Jose Delgado very clearly took round 1. Round 2 was very close. Both men landed good shots. I think Nathaniel Wood landed more strikes overall in the round, but it seems like Delgado had more of an effect. He was the much bigger fighter out there. I think he was 3 or 4 inches taller than Wood. But Wood had the numbers. He landed more shots throughout the round, and he had more volume. And the same can be said for round 3. I had round 3 scored a little bit more clearly to Wood. This is the only round I gave him. So I had it 2-1 Delgado. But I can absolutely see a world where Nathaniel Wood wins this fight. And I think both these guys are really high level. I think they're both definitely going to be ranked featherweights in the future. Jose Delgado is dangerous. And I think Nathaniel Wood's a really good fighter. He's also a lot more experienced than Jose Delgado. I think give it time, and Jose Delgado is going to be a top contender. And Nathaniel Wood, he is very good himself. So a very high level fight. Razor close decision that they gave to Wood. I'm not too mad about it, although I had it scored to Delgado because it was very close. Up the card, Walter Walker versus Louis Sutherland. No surprise about how Walter Walker gets this one done. 1 minute in, or a minute and a half in, he gets a heel hook submission. 4th in a row, I believe, for Walter Walker. No doubt a time for a step up in competition for him. Definitely a ranked opponent next. But yeah, he looked really good. He did take a shot on the chin from Louis Sutherland as he shot in on a takedown. But once he got that takedown, he just kind of held him against the cage for a minute, controlled him, got him down to the ground, wrapped those legs up, and then he kind of fell back and latched up a heel hook submission. Gets it done in round 1, the Walter Walker special. And yeah, the streak continues. So, moving on, Ludovic Klein versus Mateusz Rebecki. Ludovic Klein gets this one done by 29-28 decision. The first 2 rounds clearly went to him, and the last round went to Mateusz Rebecki. 2 judges gave round 3 a 10-8. So, had one of them not scored round 1 or 2 at 10-8 to Ludovic Klein as well, this fight would have ended in a draw, which I think is crazy. Ludovic Klein was outclassing him on the feet very clearly. Mateusz Rebecki, he fights like he always does, where he kind of bobs his head, weaves, and kind of throws big hooks back to back. And Ludovic Klein was able to figure that out pretty quickly. He was able to time him with counters. In both rounds 1 and 2, he hurt him really, really bad. Against fighters who don't have as much heart as Mateusz Rebecki, they probably would have got finished because Klein, he stung him really good, and he went jelly-legged Mateusz Rebecki. So I had Ludovic Klein clearly winning round 1 and 2. Rebecki definitely won round 3. I think it was because Ludovic Klein, he hurt something. I'm not sure what it was, but after the fight, when they were reading the decision, Ludovic Klein was on the stool. So he had a hard time getting up from bottom. And then Mateusz Rebecki, he was just landing big elbows. I think he got crucifixed for a brief period of time, and he was able to land some elbows there. But Ludovic Klein was able to survive to the end of the fight and pick up this decision win. I'm fine with this. I'm glad they didn't I'm glad it didn't end up being a draw because they gave round 3 a 10-8 to Rebecki. It was dominant, no doubt about it, but I don't think it was worth a 10-8. So I'm glad that Ludovic Klein got the win here. He's a much more deserving guy. Again, just Rebecki was a little too simple to figure out on the feet. He's dangerous. He always is. And I'm sure he landed clean on Klein a couple times and hurt him, but nothing serious. Nothing like Klein was able to land on Rebecki himself. I mean, he was just able to time those counters really well, step out of range, use his reach advantage that he had. I think he had a 6.5-inch reach advantage, if I'm not mistaken, and just sting Rebecki right after he gets done throwing those combinations. And it worked for him. He was able to pick up the 29-28 win. Moving on, Ikram Aliskerov. This fight was kind of a whole bunch of nothing. It was pretty boring, to be quite honest. I had Ikram Aliskerov winning very clearly. I think he arguably won 3-0. I think all 3 judges gave him a 30-27 decision, but I think it could have been 2-1. Either way, he gets this one done. He dealt with Jung Young Park's pressure very well as the fight went on. He didn't fold to it like a lot of guys do. And he made Jung Young Park miss quite a bit. He's fighting on the back foot towards the latter half of this fight. He's really able to make Jung Young Park overswing on some shots, and he was able to get this one done by decision. He landed some big shots of his own. He's a dangerous striker, and he did a good job implementing the grappling. He got some control time in rounds 2 and 3, I believe, and just kind of outclassed Jung Young Park from start to finish. So clear decision win for Ikram Aliskerov, and good win for him. On to the next one. Nastiest knockout I've seen in a long time. This one was truly brutal. No doubt that 50K is going Quillen Salkild's way. Gets this one done 2.5 minutes into round 1 by vicious head kick KO. Nasrat hack pressed. He went out cold. He landed on his side and then flopped over onto his face, and he was out for several minutes. I mean, it was at least 2 or 3 minutes that he was out cold, not moving. Didn't have his eyes open. It finally got him awake, which was a good sight to see, because it got to a point where I started worrying that hack press was... I mean, he definitely was seriously hurt, but I was worried that something bad was happening. Thankfully, I think Nasrat hack press is fine, but Quillen Salkilid, man, nasty, nasty head kick KO. Gets it right over the top of Nasrat's guard and puts him out cold with it. Bonks him with the shin right off the top of the head, and he was out from there. Prior to that, though, leading up to it, was pretty even on the feet. Both guys were landing pretty evenly. It seemed like a classic Nasrat hack press fight where it was razor close. But then, yeah, that head kick that came halfway through round 1 put the fight to an end, a quick end too. Quillen Salkilid gets it done. No need for follow-up shots. Out cold. It was nasty. Another knockout win. Azamat Murzakanov gets it done by round 1 KO 3 minutes in. This one was a weird one. I didn't expect Rakic to fight the way he did. It was a jab KO that got it done for Azamat. Rakic was kind of drifting into the pocket with his hands down, and Murzakanov was able to tie him with a jab. A really nice jab that he turned over, caught him flush on the chin, and put him down. It looked to me like Rakic could have recovered. He wasn't out cold. He wasn't eyes rolled back in his head or anything. He was knocked down. He was hurt, but it looked like he could have shelled up and maybe fought back in that fight. But he kind of looked up at Murzakanov, put his hands over his head, and just quit. I'm not trying to be disrespectful or anything, but that's just how I saw it. That's the fact of the matter there. Early in the round, Rakic, he was landing some decent low kicks. He was landing some good teep kicks to the midsection. But you can't trade in the pocket with a guy like that and kind of waiting in the range like that. And Azamat Murzakanov, that's really dangerous. I don't know what he was thinking there, and he paid the price for it. So Azamat Murzakanov gets it done by a round 1 knockout. He keeps the streak alive. He's 16-0 now. Yeah, and that's not many guys finish Rakic in round 1. I mean, Yuri, he took a lot of damage early in that fight, had his legs beat up before he finally got back into that fight and KO'd Rakic himself. Magomed Ankalaev went to a 29-28 decision with Rakic. So this is a very impressive showing from Azamat Murzakanov. And yeah, I think he deserves a big shot up the rankings. I'm thinking maybe Khalil Roundtree. It's not a bad option. I'll make a video in a couple days, a day or two, maybe not a couple days, but I'll make a video matchmaking all the fighters from this card, or at least the ones that are worth making fights for. So with that, we'll move on up to Alexander Volkov versus Jailton Almeida. Now I know I picked Jailton Almeida, so I should have wanted him to get this one done, but I'm so glad he didn't. Volkov deserved this win by all means. Round 1 was a very clear Volkov round. I think all 3 judges scored it his way. Both guys spent about half the round on top, controlling one another. But Volkov, he reversed position in round 1 about halfway through and rode out the rest of that round on top. And between the two of them, Volkov was the only one that landed any ground and pound shots. He's landed some really big elbows. And Almeida, and this is the story for the entire fight, not just round 1, he did not much of anything when it came to ground and pound from top position. And that's what costed him in this fight. He left it way too close because Volkov was actually trying to hurt his opponent, and he paid the price for it, and he lost a split decision. So round 2, no doubt that was a Jailton Almeida round. He controlled pretty much that entire round. Volkov wasn't able to do much of anything. And it came down to round 3, and that's where the judges were split on it. 2 of them gave it to Volkov, 1 to Almeida. I can see both cases. Me personally, though, I would have scored it to Volkov, and that's how I did have it scored in my notes. I had round 3 going to Volkov. Earlier on in the round, Volkov had him in the clinch. He landed some really big knees to the midsection that looked like they had an effect on Almeida. He also landed an elbow or 2 over the guard that was really nice. So that's all the action that really took place on the feet. Then Almeida was able to get him down. But with top position, he did nothing. He laid in full guard for the entire rest of the round. And Volkov was active from bottom. He was landing some elbows, some hammer fists from bottom. Almeida wasn't doing anything. So when there's such a discrepancy in how much the other how much one is trying to hurt the other, control time doesn't matter that much. I mean, even in the scoring criteria, if the damage is equal, then that's when you go to looking at the control time. And although Almeida had that control time, he didn't do much of anything to hurt Volkov. Volkov landed some good shots from bottom in round 1. Also hurt him on the feet. Not hurt him, but landed some good shots on the feet that seemed to have an effect on Jailton Almeida to the body. So I had round 3 going to him. Now I can see the case where if you value control time, you give that fight to him because Almeida spent 2 or 3 minutes on top and he ended the fight there. But I had Volkov winning this fight, and I think there's also justice was served from his last fight against Cyril Gane with his robbery. We'll get into Cyril Gane, by the way. Don't worry about that. But until then, we'll move on to the next fight of the card, the feature fight. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Bautista. My apologies. This was a boring fight. I had this one. It can be either 2-1 or 3-0 to Umar. It was no doubt that he won. Round 2 was really the only moment where it got hairy for Umar because Mario threw a knee. It was kind of a knee. It looked like Mariah's knockout over Aljo, where it was kind of a knee, kind of a kick with the shin. But it caught Umar right as he was ducking down, and it hurt him. It rocked him. And we'll see if they scored it as a knockdown. I'm not sure. Yeah, they gave Bautista a knockdown for that, which it looked like it was one to me. It hurt Umar pretty bad. So I can see them giving round 2 to Umar or to Mario. I'm fine with that. But round 1, Umar just dominated him in the grappling. It was one-sided. He was able to get the back and get the body triangle in and just work on the ground there, land some tappy shots, and he kept busy enough where the ref didn't jump in and stop it. And he held dominant position for almost the entirety of rounds 1 and 3. So he was able to coast to a pretty easy decision here. I didn't hear the audio from the post fight, so I wasn't sure what if he was calling for a title shot against Merab again. But he was pretty tired after this fight, and also this performance wasn't very inspiring. It was a very boring performance where he got hurt in round 2 and didn't do much of anything to damage Mario Bautista. This is not a fight, especially considering he has, prior to getting his first title fight, he had one ranked win against Corey Sandhagen, and I don't think he was deserving of that fight. I think he should have had to run the gauntlet like the rest of the fighters are, but he was kind of fast-tracked into a title shot. And a one-fight win streak on a performance like that, it's not enough to get a title shot, especially against a champion as dominant as Merab. I know he's kind of cleared out the division, but I would like to see them do Umar versus an up-and-coming contender, maybe as a hobby or something. I'll get into that again in the matchmaking video, but I think he needs one more win to get a title shot. And I also think this could be a position where if Merab beats Gane, which I think he will, Merab should be looking to fight up at 145 because there's really nothing for him here. I don't think Umar earned a title shot off that, so that really doesn't leave him with anything. So we'll move on from that. Co-main event, Virna Jandiroba versus Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern gets it done. It was a very close decision. I had it scored 3-2 to Dern. I think round 5 was the deciding round. I think it was going into that round 2-2. And Dern, she wanted it more. She fought like she wanted it more. She had more volume. Even when she was on bottom position, she landed more shots. When she did get top position in that round, she landed a lot of ground and pound shots. And she fought like she wanted it more. It's just as simple as that. They both landed some decent shots on the feet in round 5. I would probably give the slight edge to Mackenzie Dern. But again, it was the work that she done on the ground. When Virna Jandiroba would get top position, she would sort of just work to hold her there. It wouldn't be much of anything. She would just kind of hold her there and almost hope she doesn't get caught up in a submission from bottom from Mackenzie Dern. She wasn't very active in Dern's guard. But on the flip side, whenever Dern got top position, she was landing big elbows. And even from bottom, she was landing big elbows on the top of Virna Jandiroba's head. So I could even see if they score this fight 49-46 to Dern, just off the damage from those elbows from bottom. I know I was praising Volkov for doing that, so it would be wrong for me to not do that for Dern too. So yeah, those were very effective. It showed that she was more busy in those moments on the ground, even if she wasn't in top position, and ultimately she fought like she wanted it more. I had rounds 1, 4, and 5 scored to Dern. I had rounds 2 and 3 scored to Jandiroba. In rounds 2 and 3, Jandiroba, she just landed more shots, and she was able to get the control time without taking much damage off of Mackenzie Dern fighting off of bottom position. So, I had this as a late rally for Mackenzie Dern. I thought as this fight would go on, from the looks of it, because Dern was really swinging heavy early in this fight, I thought Virna Jandiroba would start to take over as the fight went on. However, it was the last 2 rounds that Mackenzie Dern secured this win, at least on my scorecard. I can't remember exactly which. I don't think I checked the scorecards exactly because I agreed with the decision. I was fine with it going to Dern, so not any controversy there for me. So I wasn't sure what rounds they scored to Mackenzie Dern, but I think there was definitely 3 of them in there that she won. So we'll move on to this main event. And what an anticlimactic end to this card. After sitting through Umar Nurmagomedov's fight, sitting through that co-main event, you're hyped for either a sick Cyril Gane performance, which he was doing good in round one, so I thought this fight was going to go out of round one based off of that, and I thought it was going to start getting interesting. I thought it could have been a very competitive fight, or we would have seen Tom Aspinall blitz through him in a round, which I guess there was still time for that to happen, but it didn't look like we were on track for that to happen. Either way, going into this fight, we know how exciting it was. Tom Aspinall is fireworks. Cyril Gane, he always puts on when he has his way on the feet, and when he's flowing, he always looks really good. So there was a lot of hype around this fight, of course, and it ends in a no contest eye poke. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be giving Tom Aspinall shit about this, saying he took the easy road out. I already heard Chael Sonnen and Anthony Smith, which is crazy for Anthony Smith. He's the pig-faced quitter. He anytime he faces any adversity, curls up in a ball, quits, and just gets pummeled. Crazy for him to talk about anybody quitting. But regardless, I'm not going to get too mad about that. Chael Sonnen's also a moron. His word means nothing to me. He's an idiot. So them talking about, oh, he should have fought through. Sometimes you got to fight with one eye. Morons. Also, it wasn't just one eye that got poked. He was poked in two eyes, knuckle deep in both eyes. It looked like in the left eye, it went into the eyelid. And on the right eye, it just kind of caught like the corner up here and just went like half a finger deep into that corner of the eye. Either way, Aspinall could not see after that. It was a horrible eye poke. I feel bad for both guys. I'm not trashing Gane or anything. It was an accident. It clearly wasn't intentional. And Gane actually looked pretty good up until that point. I know the strike numbers had it favored towards Gane. You could see at the bottom or actually my face cam's probably going to be covering that. But it was 30-27 up until the eye poke in terms of total strikes for Cyril Gane. I don't think I saw it that way. Maybe I was, I don't know, a little biased because I am rooting for Tom Aspinall. However, I thought it was pretty even on strikes, especially significant strikes. Let's see. Yeah, okay, all of the strikes were significant. So they had Gane ahead on significant strikes and total strikes by 3, which I'm not sure if I agree with. He did bust up Tom Aspinall's nose a little bit. There was some blood trickling down his nose because of some jabs that Gane was able to get off. But Aspinall, he stung Gane a few times. It wasn't quite the dominant round one that a lot of people were expecting. It was pretty even on the feet. I'm fine with that round being scored either way. I had it to Aspinall up until that point. He had Gane biting on a lot of feints. He landed the more damaging shots. I know the visible damage favored Gane because he had Tom's nose busted open from the jabs. But I saw Aspinall landing the more damaging shots, albeit there wasn't many of them. And then the optics of it, too. He was fighting on the front foot the whole time. He was the one putting on the pressure. But regardless, none of that matters because the fight ended in a no contest 4.5 minutes into round one. Yeah, definitely no question that eye poke was fight ending. I think just, neither of these guys have to cut weight. They both did a long training camp for one another, so they're both adequately prepared. I think they should get this fight on either the November or December card. January at the absolute latest, if you want to add it on the first Paramount card. However, I think after how anticlimactic of an ending that was, you got to get these guys back in there quick. I know, Tom's face got a little busted up, but it won't take long for him to heal from that. So he can easily make that November card. Now, the only problem would be is that they often don't put 3 title fights on one card, so I could see them not wanting to do that. But for the UFC, it's January at the absolute latest. You got to get these two back in there, especially if you want a super fight for the White House card in June or July of next year. You got to get these guys back in there quick. So, yeah, no contest in this one. Tom Aspinall retains his belt. Very, very unfortunate ending to this fight. Yeah, not much to say about it. I will say, Gane, he looked better than I thought he would. He looked a lot better than I thought he would. I thought he'd be very timid on the feet and he wouldn't land many effective shots. And he did look a little bit timid. He was fighting. He was on his bike for a lot of that fight, and he was biting on a lot of feints. But overall, he still looked really good. And I could have seen this going late into this fight. I could have seen it going all 5 rounds potentially and being really close. So I feel bad for both guys. I'm sure they both thought they were doing well in that fight, and it got cut short like that. I think this fight ending in this manner actually favors Aspinall a little bit because he was able to figure out what worked and what didn't work in round 1 against Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane fought the same way he always fought. This was nothing new for him. He fought the same way, but Aspinall was able to get in there and figure out what worked. He was landing low kicks really well. He's starting to find his timing a little bit, so I think this will favor him, I guess, getting a clean slate in the second fight that these guys will have. But either way, I'm a little bit more excited for it now because I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than I thought it was going into it. So, hate that it ended this way, but Tom Aspinall is still the heavyweight champ. It is what it is. I can't remember how I did on predictions. It wasn't my best night for sure. I didn't do great. And the parlay, it lost unfortunately. Jandiroba couldn't get it done, albeit it was a close fight, but I was banking on her to get that last one done. Ludovic Klein, he got the first leg done. This parlay I'm referencing is every week I'm going to do a plus 250 or better parlay. And I had Ludovic Klein and Werner Jandiroba both winning, and that fell short. So apologies for that, but yeah. Next video I'm gonna have matchmaking from this card coming to you guys, and I'll have predictions for the David Onama versus Steve Garcia, that fight week coming up next weekend. So very unfortunate ending, but it is what it is. And yeah, I guess the silver lining is we'll get a much more stacked card on one of the next 3 cards in all likelihood. So that is something to look forward to, but man, that sucks. Just very unfortunate. So that's all. I will see you guys later.